Chazak u'baruch. Good morning, Moray v'Rabotai. Be'ezrat Hashem Mincha is going to be 4:25. Please be on time. We'd like to wish a very warm Mazal Tov to the Baruchov family, Binyamin Baruchov, on the birth of the baby girl, and now on the naming of Hannah. Be'ezrat Hashem, Hannah should grow up to Torah, mitzvot, ma'asim tovim, and be zochet to be an Eshet Hayit in Am Yisrael. As well as we'd like to wish a very warm Mazal Tov to Boris Abramov, also on the birth of a baby girl. Mazal Tov to you and to your whole family. Be'ezrat Hashem, she should grow and she should strive further in the ways of Torah. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that your wife should have strength to raise all of her children in the ways of Hashem. Amen ve'amen. As the halacha, we need to discuss a very important halacha. If a person makes a knot, and that knot is essentially a permanent knot, but his interest in it is very temporary. Meaning to say, let's take an example. So in other context, I'll say first in tying, and then I'll say other context. If a person ties a garbage bag, so in a certain sense, he ties the garbage bag, it's permanent. It's not going to get undone. No one's coming to undo the knot. But in another sense, he doesn't really care for the permanency. He just wants it to be thrown out. Once it's thrown out, whatever happens, happens. What do I care about it? So in a certain sense, it's a temporary knot, but it's a permanent knot. It's a permanent knot in the fact that it remains for indefinite period of time. It's a temporary knot because my interest in it is temporary. Is that called temporary? Is that called permanent? Now that would make a big difference. Can I double knot trash or not? If I'm able to, if you call it temporary, then I could double knot it. And if you call it permanent, then I can't double knot it. So it makes a big difference in the halacha. Well, this case is discussed in a different place. Chacham Ovadia discusses, there's a melacha that runs very similar to kosher called tofer. Tofer basically means to stitch, but it means to combine two types of materials. And they used to have old-fashioned diapers. Today it's Velcro. But back in the old days, it wasn't. It was mamash stick. It would stick. You would put on diapers on a child and it would stick. So Ovadia talks about removing the plastic film and then putting it on the child. He said, that's fine. Taking it off is fine. Why? Because all of those are temporary. But then there's one thing. At the very end, you fold the diaper up, you close it up, and then you throw it out. And Ovadia says, am I allowed to close it up? And he writes over there, Yesh li zaher. One should be careful to not attach it and then throw it out, because that is actually permanent. It's permanent. It's there. It doesn't get removed, and therefore it's called permanent nature. So same thing by kosher. Also, we have to be careful. But go back to the diapers for a second. In the case of the diapers, lemaaseh today they're all Velcro, so they're not considered to be an actual unit. It's just hooks. It's basically hooking together two fabrics, but it's not really an attachment. So today it would be mutar, but in the times of Chacham Ovadia, where the diapers were a little bit different, so then be'emet, it was a problem. He says, Yesh li zaher. Although Rav Yitzhak Yosef also talks about the same case, and he says even in the olden diapers, Ovadia said li zaher, he didn't mean that you have to do it. It means it's better to. It's better to not close it on itself. But this case has other ramifications also in other halachot. Let's say, for example, when you tie your lulav, you're tying the lulav to the hadassim and the aravot, you're doing it more than a week. Because look, it's gonna, at the end of the day, it's gonna get undone. But my interest is for a week. It might end up being more than that. So there's a Rashi that seems to indicate that it's considered permanency. Basically, it's a big mess. Also on Yom Kippurim, they also have tying, because in the Beit HaMikdash, they would tie a red string on the animal, and then they would send it la'azazel. And that was one of the tyings. Is that considered a permanent tying or a temporary tying? A whole big balagan. At the end of the day, one should be machmir, just like in halichot olam, and to consider it to be a permanent knot. Lechatchila, you should view it as a permanent knot, which means, back to the trash bag, the halacha would be, you should not really double knot it, because if you double knot it, it's permanent. If you single knot it, that's definitely considered to be not a knot. It's not considered a kesher, and that would be permitted. So one should be careful to do that. What if he single knots it and then he does a slip knot on top of it? So we already said there's a machloket. Although the halacha permits it technically on a technical level, one should be mahmir if it has the definitive and permanent nature. In this case, if someone is lenient, you don't have to protest, but the right way to go about is just to tie it once and to throw it out. That's the most meticulous way of making sure that you don't come to violate the halacha of kosher. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.